Hello, story lovers. Welcome to Folks and Tales, your one-stop channel for stories that inspire and lessons that last. In the eastern part of Nigeria dwelt a certain village called Umutanzi. There lived a girl named Omah. She was widely known for her calm, nurturing, and cheerful personality. Her humility shines, not just in how she displays herself, but in how she elevates others with her words and actions. Her parents were happy to have her as their only child. Omah found pleasure in doing things like helping out with chores and fetching firewood and water for old women. She inspired the little children around as they always mentioned her to their parents. Although Omah was from a poor background, she was still satisfied with what her parents had. Omah had a friend named Nwakegu, but was called Egu for short. They have always been friends from childhood because their parents were also close friends. They always go to each other's houses as their bond grew stronger. But unlike Omah, Egu was arrogant, self-centered, and dismissive. She was so full of herself that she lacked empathy for others. Egu was also very beautiful, which made her even more disrespectful because she felt she had it all. The Umutanzi people had a king called King Izu of Umutanzi and a queen called Adezi. They had two children who were schooling in the city. He was a king with a good heart and was popularly known as the Justice of Peace because of his impartial nature. He was a king loved by all, not merely for the crown, but for his humanity. He always listened to the needs of his people and treated even the smallest issue with respect. One day, he asked the town crier to announce that the maidens who are interested in working in the palace should come in person. On hearing this, Ego ran swiftly to Omah's house. "Omah! Omah!" she shouted, panting like a dog. Omah, on hearing her name, jumped out of the hut. "What is it? Why are you shouting my name in that manner? It's too early for pranks," Omah replied. "Haven't you heard?" Ego asked. "Heard what?" replied Omah. Ego, while keeping Omah in suspense, rejoiced, dancing around with her eyes glimmering with excitement and a wide grin. Omah wondered what the news could be and held Ego firm, asking her to quit the joke and tell her what the news is all about. Ego, still grinning wildly, said to her, "All right, I'll tell you. The king has ordered interested maidens who want to work in the palace to come in person for selection," said Ego. "And so, is that why you're dancing?" Omah asked. "People like us do not even belong there," she reminded her friend Ego. "Come on, Omah, you're good at chores, while I'm good at cooking, so we stand a chance of being selected," Ego persuaded. "Come to think of it, you're right," Omah replied. "We should go there first thing tomorrow morning. Go and inform your parents while I tell mine," Omah said to her while entering back into her hut. The long-awaited day came as the interested maidens were already gathered outside the palace, each maiden longing for the king's attention with the hopes of being chosen. Each maiden had a vision of beauty and elegance, adorned in her finest attire. As the king emerged, the atmosphere shifted. Some maidens immediately began to arrange themselves. Their faces were glowing with renewed hope. Their hearts raised as they dreamt of stepping into a life of honor and privilege. As the king looked at each one of them carefully and asked some of them some personal questions like, what are your parents' names? What do you do best in life? His eyes moved, taking every detail. He was not merely seeking beauty, but was searching for intelligence and a sense of purpose that would serve his palace well. The king carefully assessed each and every one of them. The atmosphere was a blend of hope and uncertainty as each maiden silently wished to be chosen. After that, the king pointed at some of the maidens to step forward. The rest were asked to go home. Those the king pointed at were automatically chosen. Joy filled the hearts of the two close friends, Omah and Ego, as they were choosing too. They began to jubilate. The king rose, addressing the selected maidens. You have been chosen not only for your beauty, but for your potentials to serve with honor, dignity, and dedication. The chosen maidens bowed to the king with their hearts filled with happiness, while those not selected left quietly with disappointed faces. They were asked to resume work immediately, and the maidens acted accordingly. In the palace, the maidens worked diligently, their roles divided into different categories. Omah was in the chores category and Ego was in the cooking category. Ego, with her arrogant and self-centered nature, would always complain of her work. She always grumbled and murmured while working. The maidens in the cooking department already knew her for that. She would slip away from her post and go to find Omah where she is so she could gossip. It was a beautiful evening with a calm serenity when Omah was on duty, gladly sweeping the ground. Turning to the right, she saw her friend Ego, who was so relaxed as ever. Omah, Ego repeated while drawing closer. You're always busy. Can't you stop for a moment and take a break? Omah smiled and continued sweeping. I have work to do, Ego. Come on, Omah. You can continue this anytime. Let's go sit and talk, Ego persuaded. Omah paused, glancing at her friend. Ego, you know I can't leave my work unfinished. Whatever you want to say can wait. Ego, ignoring what her friend said, started talking while watching closely to avoid being caught. Ego shifted closer to her friend while whispering, You know the main purpose of coming to this palace is for the king to notice me. After all, I am beautiful, she said. Omah chuckled. You are not even serious with your duties, and you want the king to notice you? You must be dreaming, my friend, Omah replied, while still doing her work. "Whatever it is, the king must notice me," Ego ignorantly replied while walking away to her post. Omah shook her head with a grin on her face as she watched her friend leave. It was one such morning as Omah cleaned the palace. The king happened to pass through unexpectedly. He had risen early to review some matters and was surprised to see someone working eagerly at that hour. Omah, unaware of his presence, concentrated on her task. The king paused, observing her silently. Her modest and simple nature caught his attention. When Omah finally noticed the king, her heart skipped a beat and she froze. She quickly knelt and bowed her head, apologizing for not having seen him earlier. The king smiled and spoke with a warm voice filled with admiration. "You can rise, maiden. What is your name?" "Omah, my king," she replied as her voice trembled while she spoke. "Omah," the king repeated, "your works speak highly of your character. The beauty here is a testament to your diligence." He commended her. Omah's heart filled with gratitude as she remained humble in her response, bowing her head. "It is my duty and honor to serve your majesty. Thank you," she said, lowering her gaze. The king was impressed by her words and by the sincerity of her tone. He nodded. "Continue this way, Omah. This kind of dedication is rare." And he turned to leave while Omah glanced as he left. Meanwhile, her friend Ego, who was passing by, hid herself secretly to listen to their conversation while she watched the scene unfold. Her heart sank as she watched the king commend her friend, knowing fully well that was what she yearned for. With her heart filled with bitterness, "Omah must pay for this," she said to herself. While Omah gained the trust of the king already, Ego, her friend, was envious of her. She felt Omah wanted to take her place in the king's heart. The king, because of the trust he had for Omah, gave her the role of his personal maid and gave her access to his chambers. This was not really accepted by the queen, but she could not object the king's orders. Ego, who watched the king give Omah a new role, stood as bitterness churned her heart. "She thinks she is special. I will teach her a lesson," Ego muttered. One day, the king and queen set off to a neighboring village, but before he left, he called all his servants and instructed them all. While Omah had been entrusted with the honor of taking care of the king's quarters, Ego, her friend, saw this as an opportunity to plot her evil plans. The king's chamber was sacred, where only loyal servants were allowed to access. Ego knew she wouldn't be allowed there, so she decided to use her cunning nature by using the king's chamber guard, Ibe. Ibe always had an eye for Ego ever since Ego stepped her feet into the palace, but Ego never gave him attention. Ego succeeded in luring Ibe to allow her access into the king's chambers. Ibe kept watch for her while she went in and removed the king's royal bracelets. It was time for all the maidens to have their meal in the common room, but Ego wasn't there. They all wondered where she could be. "Oh, here she is," said one of the maidens. They all ate while they chatted. As soon as they were done eating, the king and queen returned. Everyone ran out to welcome them and went back to their chores. A few minutes later, the king began to shout on top of his voice, with his face like a mask of fury, calling on Ibe, the guard attached to his chamber. "Yes, your majesty," Ibe responded, bowing his head before the king. "Something is missing from my room," the king exclaimed, with his tone very deep. Ibe, with his voice trembling, replied, "What could that be, your majesty?" "My royal bracelet," the king roared. "You are the only guard attached to my chamber, so how did my bracelet disappear? That bracelet was a gift from my ancestors." "Your majesty, nobody has entered your chambers except Omah, the personal maid," Ibe replied. "What's going on here, your majesty?" asked the queen. "My queen, my royal bracelet is missing, and the guard is saying nothing about it," the king replied. "How could that be? Have you asked Omah? She's the only one that enters your room," the queen responded in surprise. "Come off it. Omah cannot steal the royal bracelet, and you know it," said the king. Turning to Ibe, the king commanded him that all the servants be summoned at the king's court. The servants whispered as they wondered why they were summoned. On getting to the king's court, there was silence. Breaking the silence, the king exclaimed, "Which one of you removed my royal bracelet?" The servants began to speak at the same time. "Not me, your majesty, not me, your majesty," they all said. "Quiet!" ordered the king. "You may speak one at a time." Ego summoned courage and said, "Your majesty, it is only Omah that has the permission to go to your chambers, so she should know best what happened to your royal bracelet." The king, turning to Omah, asked, "Did you remove my royal bracelet? You probably kept it somewhere safe in my chamber." The king asked Omah in confidence and with a smile. Omah, almost in tears, said, with her voice trembling, I have never removed anything from your chambers, not even the royal bracelet." Immediately they heard noises of incantations approaching the king's court. It was Abaka, the chief priest. "Look not afar, for the answer you seek is right before you," said Abaka. "You are here, eyes of the gods, but you speak in parables," the king responded. "The gods said I should tell you that the answer you seek is right before you," Abaka said repeatedly while turning to leave. The king stands and leaves to his chamber, reflecting over the chief priest's words. His mind filled with uncertainty and confusion, he begins to suspect Omah as the culprit. He instructs Ibe to announce to all the servants that the culprit has till dawn to return the royal bracelet, as he will pass judgment at dawn. Ibe does as he was instructed by the king. The next day, At the second crow of the cock, all the servants assembled at the king's court in fear and curiosity. The king arrives and sits on his throne. "May you live long, my king," they all greeted. "I called you here to witness the king's judgment over the disappearance of the royal bracelets. The only person who has access to my room is the royal servant Omah. So, she alone could have stolen my bracelet. Therefore, I will banish her from this kingdom," the king said. Omah, in great shock, with her eyes filled with tears, gazing at the king, tried to explain her innocence, but the king paid deaf ears. "Are you sure about this, your majesty?" asked the queen. Ignoring the queen's question, King Izu ordered her bags to be brought. Ego's heart was filled with joy that one could almost see it on her face. On the arrival of the guard with Omah's bag, he handed the bag over to the king, and the king threw it at Omah. Everybody exclaimed as they saw the bracelet fall out of Omah's bag. "I don't know how it got there," Omah pleaded, crying. In anger, because his trust had been betrayed, the king ordered the guards to throw Omah out, and anybody who associates with her will also be banished. Omah did not even have the opportunity to tell her family what happened. She wandered alone, looking for shelter, food, and water. When her parents heard, they cried and cried, begging the king to have mercy on their daughter, but to no avail. The third day, Omah found a hut at the outskirts of a nearby community. She went close to the hut and saw an old woman cooking. "You must have come far, my child. The gods will declare your innocence, Omah," the old woman spoke. Omah asked in surprise, "Who are you? And how did you know my name?" "Sit, you must be tired. Let's eat," the old woman replied. Omah hesitated at first, but remembered that she had not eaten for 3 days, accepted the food and ate. "Your heart is heavy, my child, but you must rest," the old woman said to her. Omah poured out her heart to the old woman. "They accuse me of what I did not do. After the storm comes sunshine," replied the woman. 10 market days passed, and things went back to normal in the palace. One day, the king went into the queen's chamber to present a gift to her, but she wasn't there. He looked for where to keep the gift so as to surprise the queen. Then he opened the cupboard to keep it. He saw something that looks exactly like his royal bracelet. He dashed to his chamber with the bracelet, only to see the bracelet that fell out from Omah's bag still there in his chambers. He wondered in confusion. "Ibe!" shouted the king. Ibe, dashing into the chamber, responded, bowing down his head. Yes, your majesty." "Get me the queen," the king said in an angry tone. "Your majesty, you demanded my presence," said the queen as she walked in. Trying to hide his fury, he asked calmly, Do you have anything to do with the missing royal bracelet? Of course not, Your Majesty. How can you even think of me in that manner? The Queen spoke in confidence. The King pointing behind him, asking the Queen, "Why was this in your chamber?" The Queen, in great shock, stammered, Your Majesty, I can explain." "Speak," commanded the King. "It all began when you appointed Omah as your personal maid. I wasn't comfortable with it. I began to look for a way to make you lose trust in her. Unknown to me, someone else had plans to make her leave too. I exchanged your royal bracelet with a fake one so that I can frame her for taking the original one. But surprisingly, someone else framed her for stealing the fake one, probably thinking it was the original one." The Queen spoke with her speech shaken. "Oh, Adaeze, why? Why? I showed you so much love. Now you made me banish an innocent girl. I didn't even give her the opportunity to defend herself." In anger, the King rose and said, "I give you till dawn to find who framed Omah, or else your punishment will be worse." Since Omah left the palace, Ibe had been feeling bad because he didn't know his actions will go this far. He only wanted to get Ego's affection. He realized Ego only used him for her selfish desire. Close to midnight, Ibe was all alone and sad when the Queen's most senior maid approached him and tried to find out what the matter was. He hesitated at first, but had to release the guilt from his mind, so he confided in her and told her how he allowed Ego to have access to the king's chamber, not knowing her intention will cause Omah shame and disgrace. He pleaded with the maiden, "We must tell the king immediately. I am ready to do anything to correct my mistake. I am also ready for the consequences," Ibe responded. The maiden advised him to go and inform the king as it all happened. As soon as the day broke, Ibe informed the king's guard that he wanted to speak with the king urgently. Audience was given to Ibe to see the king. Immediately, the queen walked in. The news was all over the palace already. Ego knew she was in trouble. "Your Majesty, it was Ego, one of the maidens that put the bracelet in Omah's bag. I let her into your chambers the day of the incident," Ibe confessed. The king looking at the queen, "Are you aware of this?" "No, Your Majesty. I'm hearing it for the first time," she replied. "God! Get me the maiden named Ego," the king ordered. Ego, appearing before the king in fear, knelt before him pleading for forgiveness. The king ordered that both Ego and Ibe be locked up in the palace prison until Omah is found. He also instructed his guards to go search for Omah and should not return until she was found. Omah had started feeling at home as she helped the old woman cook, wash, and fetch firewood. Before the old woman set off for her farm, she told Omah, "The sun will put a smile on your face today, my child." Omah smiled and responded, "Mama, you are the sun that put a smile on my face." After searching for 2 market days, the guards found Omah coming from the stream with a pot on her head. The guards informed her of the king's order, but Omah refused to follow them. The guards decided to force Omah, but she pleaded to allow her see the old woman at the hut who had been taking care of her. The guards looked at each other for confirmation and accepted to follow Omah to the hut. On reaching the hut, the old woman was already waiting for Omah. "The time has come for you to prove your innocence, my child. You must do as you are told. May the gods protect you, my child." She went into her hut and brought Omah's bag and gave her a sign that it was necessary for Omah to follow the guards. On reaching the palace, the information was quickly sent to the king, who came out immediately. "Please forgive me, Omah, for I was swift in my actions," the king pleaded. He told her how the queen and her friend Ego sought for her downfall. The queen also pleaded with her. "Who am I not to forgive the queen and king of Umutanzi?" Omah replied. The king ordered for all the villagers to assemble at the palace. He then made a declaration in front of all the villagers that from now on, Omah will no longer be servant, but will now be a full member of the royal household, and that her family is permitted to visit the palace at any time. The king officially adopted Omah as his last daughter. This was amazing and mind-blowing. The villagers were happy with the king's decision. King Izu forgave the queen Adaeze, but locked her up in her chambers for 4 market days, while Ego and Ibe were banished. The end. I learned that jealousy can lead to doom. Also, honesty always comes with reward. How about you? Story lovers, please tell me what you learned from this story. Drop them in the comment section below. I would love to read them. Thanks for watching, story lovers. Again, this is Folks and Tales. If you enjoyed the story, please give this video a big thumbs up. Comment and share this video to other story lovers. Also, subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell so that you will be notified whenever we upload the video. We will be uploading intriguing and captivating stories multiple times per week. You don't want to miss them. Until my next one, peace and love.